Zelia, are you on the line?
Hi, Manoka, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh,
I was just wondering, I see Ere is on hold. I was wondering if you're going to kick us off for the next session.
oh, okay. No, you can actually start. I think, yeah, I think we are all quite familiar with you, so I think you can just go for it.
Okay, thank you so much, Zelia. Good evening. I hope you are all doing well. It seems like you've had quite an exciting session that preceded this. My name is Manoka, and I will be with you for the rest of the session. And this is a group coaching session. I'll explain more in a moment, but I am looking forward to engaging with all of you. I just want to post something in the chat. I'll post it in a moment. And please see if you are able to respond. I would really appreciate that. I am playing around with my Microsoft features. Okay, there is one person who has it open. Siabonga, are you able to type? I just want to test that it is working. Zelia, I was wondering if you could just check something for me. Do you know why it looks like people don't have access, including yourself?
See?
No access. Zelia, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I also don't have access, but let me just try to get someone from online to just quickly help us.
Okay, not a problem. Zelia, please just let us know in the chat once it's resolved. I will go ahead then and start our session. Hopefully, you will all gain access. I'm really curious. There is a person who's able to access it. I don't know if Siabonga is God's favorite, but Siabonga has it open but hasn't responded. Um, Siabonga, please respond to the question if you have a moment. Thank you so much. A warm welcome to our session today, and very grateful to the Endunamo family for having me once again. I have spoken to many of you earlier this year when we had a session around May, and today we are doing something a little bit different. So today's session, I have titled it The Smart Finish, and self-awareness sharpens strategy. So no matter what you're doing right now, whether you are preparing for final exams or anything else in your life related to your goals, how are you going to ensure that you have a smart finish? So by day, I'm a chartered accountant. I work in the audit field. I work at a Big Four audit firm. Um, and I also do career coaching, which is the virtue by which I have gotten tonight's invitation to come and work with all of you. As I said, is I will talk a little bit about coaching just to reacquaint you. So coaching effectively is about partnering with you as an individual, and we are building actionable goals. And the key assumption is that you are inherently resourceful. There are things that you have experienced in your life that equip you And sometimes you don't know. There's a life lesson that you can use to prepare for exams. You just don't know it. And sometimes when we draw on those life experiences or any type of experience, you are able to use that in any scenario to problem solve. And then lastly, it's us working together. So we're here to collaborate. I'm not here to talk to you. And that is why I'm trying to see some of our functions to see how we can engage a little bit more. But if it doesn't work out, we'll use the normal functions, the microphone, the chat box, and the like. Okay, so maybe I should ask the question. So Zelia is still checking for us. So I just asked you guys how you're feeling. So I'm just going to take a moment, please. I understand that some of you may have recently received results. So just a check-in for one moment. So I'm just going to give it 60 seconds. You can come on the microphone. You can type in the chat box. How are you guys feeling? Team, are you able to hear me? Okay, there come the comments. I believe so. So I think it's Njini, says relieved but under pressure. Okay. Tell us a bit more about the pressure if you have a moment. Schabelo says, wondering what to do between now and the final exam. Schabelo, if you don't mind, what do you mean by that? Why are you wondering what to do between now and final?
Okay, I think it's, just speaking with fellow classmates and people that have done the APC before, is they've cautioned us of being complacent just by getting a certificate, and that just because you're doing good now doesn't guarantee you for the final APC. So there's also a bit of nervousness there, because now you don't know whether to actually be relieved or should you be worried about being too complacent.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. Thank you so much for sharing. So the pressure to prepare adequately and sufficiently and keep going until December. So I understand there's about 78 days left to a important moment for you guys. So thank you so much for that. I just wanted to check what your headspace is right now. So just to close on what we were talking about, the point of this discussion, conversation, the more you interact, share, and ask questions, the more we can all understand where you are mindset-wise. And there's something that is called peer-to-peer learning. So when someone else asks a question, even if you didn't ask it yourself or were not thinking about the same thing, you now have the benefit of that question that has been asked. And sometimes your peers have more input on whatever it is that we're discussing. And then second and lastly is to revisit questions and debrief them with your mentors, with your peers, that will help you. So whatever it is that you want to reflect on at a later stage, you can do so. So Ere says Chabelo is flexing his certificate. Sit for the sub. Make sure you are exam fit and ready. I want to see if no, it's not Chabelo actually. Is it Chabelo who spoke about the certificate? I think so. All right. So we had a session a few months ago for the APC candidates, and we spoke about a few things, but the key things that we spoke about were self-reflection, preparation strategy in terms of how you are going to approach the next 6 months leading up to the exam. We did mindset and motivation check-ins, and then we spoke about a 6-month sprint. I believe that a worksheet was shared with you after the session to go and help you answer those questions, and the same will apply today. So we touch on various themes, but I encourage you to really go and think and reflect if there's something that you haven't answered, or there's actually more questions in your worksheet, things that will help you to prepare for this upcoming period, especially given the fact that there's a bit of a question mark. If we listen to Chabelo's comment and Tsungi's comment, there's a bit of a question mark about what happens these next 2 months. If I've got my certificate, where to from here? Even if you're writing this up, you have perhaps a different design for the next couple of weeks, but where to from here? So I think we'll send out the worksheet for the May session as well, just to help you recap for whoever maybe that did not see it. So in today's session, it's going to be guided around 5 principles. So I'm going to spend about 10 minutes on each point. So we're going to do a quick check-in and reflection. And then number 2, what's a smart final stretch? What is it that you need right now to be resilient? Protecting your energy and wellness. And then lastly, we're going to do something called a reframing circle that just allows us to hone ourselves in or bring ourselves in from any self-limiting beliefs. We spoke about self-limiting beliefs last time, but those are the 5 things that we will be working on today. And I'm going to get started in a moment. Zelia, do you mind giving us feedback on whether you've come right?
Hi, Manoka. No, not yet.
Okay. All right. So thank you so much, Zelia. So we'll get started then. So as I said, let's talk around 5 themes. So theme number 1 is check-in and reflection. And what I really want to understand right now is, where are you compared to where you were when you started this program? So just a reflection, where are you compared to when you started the program this year? No, let me start again. You have the microphone. Please go ahead and introduce yourself. Ketabahle, I think I might have got it now. How are you doing?
Thanks. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Please go ahead.
So, is your question in terms of academically or mindset or both?
Let's start with academically, and then let's see where you're headed on mindset.
Okay. Academically, I think where we started, you feel like, okay, no, there's traction. I think I'm learning a few things, and then it sort of tends to go downhill. So you're like, okay, I thought I was getting the hang of it. And then it slowly starts to sort of go up again. So the graph is like a U kind of graph. So it goes down and then up. That's where I am academically. I think it's starting to pick up. And I guess that is also reflected in the mindset, because when you start, irrespective of how I was feeling about last year, the outcomes, and when results came out and there were so many people that passed, and I couldn't write in December, I felt like I could have passed, you know? So that sort of tends to create a dip in your mindset to say, oh, okay, you go through this phase. And then you're like, okay, you work through it mentally, emotionally. I'm fine. Let's do this. I can do this. And you give it your all. And when the academics don't go well, it dips with your mindset as well. You start to question yourself. Oh my word, do I know what I'm doing? What's going on? You start feeling like you feel a lot more pressure. You feel like, oh, it's not going to work out again. And what's going to happen if it doesn't work out again? So the mindset sort of also dips, the mental health, it dips. Emotionally, now you're questioning everything. But with the results picking up, it sort of picks up again your mindset to say, you know what, it's not that bad. It's not as bad as I was in, anticipating, or I'm not completely I don't want to say useless, but that's honestly the word you used to say. It's not completely a lost cause, you know. So with the academics picking up, you gain your confidence back to say, no, you know what, I can do this. And it gives you the strength to actually keep pushing, to keep doing it again. And yeah, I think that's where I am compared right now compared to 6 months ago when you were going downhill.
Katabatle, thank you so much for sharing. And I'm going to lean into what you've said because I think there's potential scenarios. There's someone who's going to relate to exactly what you've said, but there's also someone who said that downhill that you've just described is where I feel I am. So to your first point, I spoke earlier about what is called self-limiting beliefs, and it's the messages that we tell ourselves, and we all have them from time to time. So it's something that you think about, that you believe actually, and it talks about basically why you won't make it. So it's a negative thought and attitude that you hold about yourself, your abilities, and your potential. They act as psychological barriers, and it prevents you effectively from pursuing certain goals wholeheartedly, taking risks, or reaching your full potential. So if we talk back to, and you use some phrases, but the word that sticks out and you didn't want to use it, and say, maybe I'm not completely useless. So if that is a thought that you are having, it inhibits your ability to give your all to what you are doing, because a part of you, a huge part of you thinks, no matter what I do, it's going to end how it ended previously. And you referenced to last year. So I just want to check with you, Ketabatle, does that make sense what a self-limiting belief is?
Yes. Yes, it
Okay.
does.
Okay, perfect. So effectively, when you're in that position, is you need to challenge yourself. You need to actually be aware that what you are saying is actually a self-limiting belief. You have to challenge those negative thoughts. And the very, I think, important thing is you need to use fact-based evidence. So I feel useless, or you could even say I am useless, which doesn't sound like an emotion, but what is the fact behind what you're saying? So how do you know that you won't be successful if you don't try? So try to reshape your thinking so that you are giving yourself the best chance at a success that there is. And I said the second point I just wanted to touch on, because you spoke about a U shape in terms of progress. So, it's dipped a bit and now you feel that you're on the up. Maybe your results have gone well and you're not writing this up. Therefore, you're feeling a little bit more confident. But for anyone who potentially hasn't gotten the certificate yet, to understand that progress is not a linear process. So progress doesn't always look like this. Sometimes you are doing this tending upwards. Sometimes, as Ketabatle described, there's been a dip. Sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad. But it doesn't mean that you might not make it or you won't have a good outcome. So I just wanted to address that because whether you agree or relate to what Ketabahle said, or you feel different or are in a different position, you all need to think about and manage your self-limiting beliefs. All right, I hope that makes sense. Please give me a thumbs up if it does. I just want to see if you're all with me. I'm going to move now to Agnes. Agnes, how are you? Can you guys hear Agnes? Hello?
I can't hear also.
Okay, thank you. All right, Agnes, I'm just going to type a message. All right, thank you so much. So thanks for that. So we all will be in different phases over the last 6 months. You might have planned the 6 months a particular way, but the important thing to understand is you need to plan and replan. It's not going to go exactly how you thought it would go. And as I said, is sometimes you think I'll start here and I will do this, but it doesn't always work that way. But the reason why I asked is because I wanted all of you to realize that perhaps there's only one thing that has changed. It might feel like a small win, or it might not even recognize it as a win. But you have progressed over time. And as I said, when we started off, self-awareness is going to sharpen your strategy. So the more you're self-aware, the better you are going to prepare and perform in your next assessment. All right. Thank you so much. Thanks for that check-in. We're going to move then to our next portion where we're talking just about being targeted and having a smart final sprint. So the next 2 months, 78 days, according to Google, when I counted, are going to be very important for you. And how do you best utilize the time that you have remaining? And in our introduction, everyone that was commenting on this actually had similar themes, and we're talking about complacency and the like. So I spoke last year, I think it might have been at the end of the APC calendar last year, where I spoke about the fact that you are, or athletes have been preparing their whole lives for certain moments. So we see a moment of glory. So you see a Usain Bolt, you see an Akani Simbini who is doing very well this year, but Akani has been an athlete for over a decade, has had a lot of near successes, and he's the guy who is always in the final but doesn't make the top 3. And somehow, somewhere, that eventually turns, and this year he's having quite a successful year. And it's not because of what he did this year. If he has been working on this sport for 15 years, that's all that dedication that has gone into it. So the reality is you shouldn't just look at this period. It is about what you have done as a collective. But do not become complacent, because if you were an athlete and you decided for, the week before that you're not going to train and you're not going to warm up, that's going to affect your ability to show up at that said event. So I think the title of what we were speaking about end of last year, it was called Match Day Fitness. So how do you show up to ensure that in that small stretch, so Usain Bolt and Akani have 10 seconds, you have a few hours on the 3rd of December. How are we making sure that you are match day fit? So in terms of focus, the biggest thing here that I want to highlight, it's about refining everything that you've been working on, not overloading. So you cannot do what you were meant to have done in the past 4 to 6 months in a 2-month period. So it's about refinement, not overload. Okay, so we are going to ask the question for this part. So I've got 1 or 2 questions. So if you had only 2 weeks, left, do you know what topics you would focus on? Please feel free to type or ask for the microphone. If you had only 2 weeks left, what topics would you focus on? Leases, fun. You do only have 2 weeks left. Chifiwa, I hear you. Okay, so you all think you have a topic in mind. I just want to note one thing. So some of you are very specific on your topic, and I think some of you are being broad. So Umpile, if you say audit, tax, and management accounting, and we spoke about refinement, not overloading. I think if you go too big, then that might be a limitation for you. So thanks, you all seem to know what it is that you will do in your final period. So different question, what's one way you can study smarter, not longer? Smarter, not longer. Tsungi, I think you're on the right path. So mindset shift and focusing on self-reflecting on last case studies. Tsungi, earlier you wanted to grab the microphone. Do you want to grab it now? I've got a quick question for you. It's related, I promise, to the comment that you just posted. It's not going to be a rogue question.
Okay, Manoka.
Okay, so you spoke about reflecting on the last case studies. So my question is what does your last case study tell you are weak in?
I think one of the things it's a common thread is obviously improving the critical thinking and business acumen side of things. And also being agile to some of the changes on the day. So I think when I talk about reflecting on the last case studies is to say from baseline to hypothetically supplementary, what did I not do well? And how can I touch on that? And also looking at to say what I didn't do well in the first case study, did I do it well in the second one, or is it a consistent thread? And then what I did well, am I also maintaining that trajectory? And I think for me, as opposed to trying to overwhelm myself with which one of the standards may come up, yes, there is need to brush up some basic technical things, but I think it's more being prepared to say whatever is triggered, then I will dive in deep.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for sharing, Zungi. So I think everyone is sharing different topics and themes, but really making sure that you are focused on it's not beneficial. Let's say you're really strong in group accounting. You can go and practice all the groups that you want, but if they're not going to be asking about groups and you are really just strengthening something you're already strong in. So it goes without saying that the things that you are noticing that you need to develop, whatever it is, whether it's a technical topic, it's time management, it's structuring your answers, it's planning, it is your delivery or articulation of the Queen's language, exam technique, like Ketabahle is saying. So all of those things you need to be working on in this period. But first, it starts by defining that. So what is it currently that I'm weak in? What is it that I spend too much time on? And really the key thing is spending your key energy, call it the 80-20 rule, but what is going to give you the biggest impact? So if you write better, is that what's going to give you the biggest impact? Or if you go and understand whatever that topic was, will that be better? So understand what that is for you. So if I master this, what's going to boost your performance the most? So start with that reflection in order to determine what your last stretch looks like. And it's not going to look the same for any of you because you're all on different paths. But as we said, like I posted it earlier, is what's the one way I can study smarter, not longer? So that is going to be the key and operative word. I'm going to pause here. Any questions on what we've spoken about now in this segment? So a targeted focus, smart final sprint. What are your thoughts, team? Tsungi?
Okay, I think for me, one of the key things that comes to mind is whilst we're obviously still going to be working in our groups and putting in our individual work, I think you said something that's profound to say is to understand where you're at personally, because I think sometimes in the final stretch, we can easily get overwhelmed with the competencies or strengths of our group members and ignore what we're actually good at, and then that will also then affect our progress. So I think it's whilst you are collaborating, it's also staying in your lane and knowing what your superpower is and chasing for that. Because I think for most of us, there's something that we have done individually to get us to where we are that has worked. And I think it's to avoid trying to shift in the last minute to try a new technique. Yes, there is room for continuous improvement, but I think it's also just being confident in what you're doing right and owning it.
Thank you for sharing, Tsungi. That is quite profound. So within your collective groups, you have different abilities and different contributions. You might be different industries and different skill sets completely. And your ability to contribute is not limited by how brilliant your neighbor is or what industry your neighbor comes from. So think about that. So I said earlier, we're here to do what we're doing peer-to-peer learning. So we're all sharing for the benefit of the next person. All right. Thank you so much for that, Tsungi. Sichabelo, you can go ahead.
I actually gave a question, but I don't know if you want me to answer yours first.
You're lucky I've forgotten what mine was. So let's go with yours.
Okay. So I think I'm honestly not comfortable with the psycho syllabus that was not in scope for ITC, that might be in scope now for APC, which is basically like the sky's the limit. They can test anything. So I think specifically, I want you guys like just share your thoughts regarding like sustainability standards, IFRS 18. I know it's coming up. There's also IFRS 17 as well. So I don't know if those are areas that like we should like just be comfortable with, because I know IFRS 17 is also like a lot. So maybe just not to get a shock if it comes, so I definitely don't want any surprises. Yeah.
So Sichabelo, so you say I don't want any surprises. So let's think about it, exam or an interview. Okay, so if someone says to you, Sichabelo, please tell me succinctly, what are your thoughts on S1 and S2?
So I think that's exactly what I'm uncomfortable with, right? But I know S1 and S2, the main objective is to make it mandatory for companies that are applying IFRS to disclose non-financial items and their sustainability practices, right? Which wouldn't have been disclosed before. So I think I won't go into the specifics and tell you what each paragraph says, but I think the gist of it is just to focus more on the non-financial elements that have been neglected and have not been previously addressed.
Okay. Thank you, Chabelo, for that answer. I asked you this, and I also gave you the interview example. Earlier, I said to you, sometimes our learnings comes from different areas in life. When I prepare people for interviews, the key thing that I say to them is you need to have a broad awareness of various topics so that there is no topic that catches you off guard. So how you answered now was perfect, and I would hire you because you didn't say, I don't know the answer or my knowledge is very limited. Remember, I asked you for a summary and you gave me a summary. And then you said, I won't go into the detail, and but you just summarized basically what your understanding of the standard is. So in an exam scenario, you need an awareness of enough information that you are not unable to attempt a topic. But going back to strengths and weaknesses, it's also understanding. So if you know S1 and S2 is what you know the least about, why is that going to be something you spend 30 minutes to an hour on? Because you yourself know that your knowledge is limited. So think about where are you getting the most bang for your buck. So definitely number one is enough knowledge of broader topics that you're able to attempt to apply yourself. And then secondly is not spending too much time on those areas that you feel uncertain about in an exam scenario. Chabelo, I just want to check in with you if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. So I'm going to move us along. Thank you so much. So we were speaking now about a targeted focus for our last stretch and really making sure we're focusing on the areas with the most impact. So we're going to move swiftly along to the next topic, which is the resilience toolkit. And that is, I can't remember who mentioned it, but someone mentioned the word stress. And just now when I was talking about match day fit and thinking back to sitting in Gallagher and those exam days, it really is, how we show up on the day. So the first thing that I want to say is stress is normal. And stress is something you're going to feel a lot in the next period. If you're not stressed, don't stress because you're not stressed. Your stress is energy in disguise. You need to learn how to channel it, and we all do that in different ways. Whether it is exercise, whether it's laughing, whether it's someone will think they need to study more. But we all deal with our stress in different ways. And we need the ability to be able to bounce back. So I'm going to ask a question now. It is quite a question. So what will you do or how will you bounce back if something doesn't go well in this period? You're writing this up, you hope it goes very well, and then maybe it doesn't go exactly how you wanted it to. How would you bounce back from that? You would just perish. I'm thinking of a TikTok audio that I've seen quite a lot. Will you perish, Katabahle, in the true English of the word or in the TikTok sense of the word? Okay, she's laughing, so I think she means I hope she means in the TikTok sense. So you are going to have setbacks. Ketabate spoke about this process. I spoke about, it's like this, and it still may be like this in these last couple of weeks. So there are just some things you need to know and understand. Stress is normal. So how are you going to manage the stress? It's not about, oh, I hope I don't get stressed. No, you are likely to get stressed. How do you manage your stress? So I'm going to touch on a few points, particularly around the stress topic, because it definitely does happen. So Tendani says, soldier on. Agnes says, try again next year if I don't get the certificate to write. So let's chat quickly just about mastering stress. So stress is a normal emotion and feeling. It's about identifying your stresses. So what is it that stresses me out? So is it particular people? Is it the day after a study session or a group meeting? What is it that's stressing you? And try and understand, and where possible, avoid or approach those situations with a different approach, because you now know, if I go talk to my manager, the week before my exam or whatever, it's going to stress me. Or if my manager doesn't approve my leave on time, it's going to stress me. So identify and manage the stresses from the get-go, because you know what those are. Develop certain habits. As I said just now, there's different things that are helping us show up on a daily basis. There's an image I've seen a few years ago that says what I thought success was. And, it's a very small graph. So success is like some material things and a nice job or some travel. So let's call it 3 parts. And what success actually looks like when you are living this life thing for a lot longer. You feel successful the day you got to the gym in the morning, or you feel super successful when you still manage to go in the evening. So it can be gym, it can be eating well, sleeping well, caring for yourself. So please do not underestimate how important these things are, your habits, in terms of how you are going to show up on the day of the exam. So I keep mentioning this match day fitness because an athlete would need to do certain things in preparation, and they're unlikely going to have a 6-pack of beers the night before the race, because maybe that slows them down. So please think about yourself as an excellent person and taking care of yourself, much like an athlete would, to ensure that you show up in the best manner. Spend some time by yourself, set boundaries, seek support. And support is from your holistic environment. It's from your friends, your family, your peers, colleagues who are supportive. So all of that you need to understand. And I use the word set boundaries because earlier I said, if your manager didn't want to give you the day off, would that contribute to your stress levels? So have boundaries of when you're studying and when you're able to work and when you're able to have fun with your family. This is a small period of your life that you need to sacrifice and give your all while still taking care of yourself. But it is you on the other end of those results. So it's very important that you don't allow others to compromise that for you. Okay, so a few things just we can think about in terms of resilience. So I spoke a little bit about stress, which I think that's the biggest part, is preparing for those triggers. But equally, what's your reset strategy? I have a little page, and it sounds silly. I've got a note on my phone of things that help me relax. Because if my mind goes into overdrive, I don't even think, oh, just put on some music or just call someone for 5 minutes and you'll probably be okay. But what is your go-to strategy going to be when your stress spikes? Not if your stress spikes, when your stress spikes, because this is likely to happen. Okay, I'm going to ask, I think probably the last question for this segment. So in terms of resilience, what's a challenge that you have experienced in the past? And how does it prove that you have the ability to bounce back? What past challenge have I overcome that proves that I can bounce back under pressure? Taylor says CTA. Surviving CTA, if there's a reality show that they could do. I don't know, for those of you who might remember me from the previous session, I spoke about the year that I failed CTA, easily one of the most challenging things that I had been through. So that is very relatable to me. So yeah, but everything was in preparation for something greater. Okay, Kayla, how did that prove to you that you can bounce back under pressure? CTA is hell in a cell. I'm not familiar with that phrase, Anesu, but it has quite a ring to it. Kayla, are you there? I'm laughing at this phrase. I really have never heard it. Oh, it's wrestling terms. Oh my goodness. I haven't watched WWE since the 90s. Now I'm telling you guys how old I am. Completely understood. So thank you so much. Thank you. So we all have a challenge that we've overcome that proves that you can bounce back. And actually, the CTA example is quite important because for most of us, whether you've finished it in one attempt or more, there's something that you can learn from CTA. So apologies if I'm repeating something you've heard before, but my second CTA attempt was so interesting because going into it, I was very confused about what would be different in the second attempt because I had given my all in attempt number one. I had studied until I couldn't study anymore. And I had woken up at 4 a.m. and I had worked, studied 7 days a week. And I had done all of that. I really didn't understand what would be different. I must have been not listening in the first year because one of the very first things that they speak to you about is about exam technique and about resting before your exams and about not doing too much and all of those things. And they literally went in and out for me in year one. And in year two, I thought, "Ugh, what do I have to lose? I studied 7 days last year, so maybe if my lecturer says I must study 6 days, maybe let me try that." And lo and behold, it actually worked. So sometimes it's wild that we are receiving information when we are ready sometimes. So the question I ask, what's the past challenge that proves that I can bounce back under pressure? And I think for me, it would be what's the lesson that I learned? So listen to the people who are advising you. If someone tells you, we finish at this time the day before the exam and we rest, or we watch a comedy series and then we sleep, and we don't drink a 6-pack before the exam, then listen to the advice. You have nothing to lose. All right. Thank you so much. I would like to move on to our second last topic that we're chatting about. So if I recap, I said we're just going to talk about 5 things, and we're spending about 5 to 10 minutes on each of them. So I'm moving on to the next topic that I just want you guys to be mindful of. We're not going to all have the same answers. This one is a very interesting one because some people are very energetic and they think they are athletes, but we underestimate the ability for our bodies to be able to show up for us. The brain is part of your body, and it's not housed in a cell. So you need. Wouldn't that be fun if it was just our brains that went to Gallagher to go and tackle the exam for us? I just literally imagined like a pink brain on a desk trying to type the exam. Not fun, very creepy. That's literally what I just imagined. So unfortunately, Ketabahle, your brain needs to be in your body with your hands and your legs and your arms. So you are a full person who's going to write this exam. Don't forget about that. And I've touched on a lot of things as I spoke. I spoke about various things, sleeping, nutrition, and the like. So please spend time when you get the pack just thinking about those things for themselves. And applying that to your life. So I am going to ask a question here. When are you most alert and most focused? When are you most alert and most focused? I'm not so alert in the evenings. I'm having a little drink. It's not an energy drink, don't worry. It's a 7-Up sugar-free, but I thought it might do something. Maybe it's a mental thing. So early mornings, after gym, in the evening, when I'm watching TV, Ketabatle, does that align with our question? So that's when you're the most focused. How would that apply for your studies? Okay, so ensuring that you know when you're most productive and working around that. So figure out what that window is, morning, evening, whatever's, and make it work. And if you've said it's evening and now you haven't studied all day and then it's the evening and then you procrastinate and you don't do it, please remember you can't do that into infinity. So don't fool yourself. Know and understand what that is and stick to that. What drains you? I don't get why no one else is curious what Ketabatle means when she says watching TV at night. Okay, all day meetings, definitely. Interesting fact. Guys, please don't tell my colleagues. They're going to kill me. I was in an 11-hour meeting last week. And the interesting part, it's not the first time. So twice a year, we've got this meeting that never ends. Yes, 11 hours. And it's not even scheduled for 11 hours. I think it's scheduled for like 9 hours, which is still going to be rough. But 11 hours, no, that drains me. Negative energies, Helen. I'm sorry. Y'all can tell my colleagues, nah, I want to do an 11-hour meeting. Being back in the office, dread the traveling, makes sense. So what drains my energy the most? How do I reduce or manage it? I don't take the all-day meeting, or I take the all-day meeting from home. That's how I try to manage it. Negative energies. Helen, there are people who maybe won't understand the detail, but how you feel when you come out of situations, do you feel better or worse than when you joined a space? And if you are doing something that is constantly draining you, that's something that you should try to pull yourself away from. So that's very important. Meetings that end at 4:30, they want answers at 8. You're going to have to come up with those answers in your sleep. Tell your colleagues to be more efficient. We can't fill the C-suite for a minute more than we planned. That is fair. I'm going to give that feedback. Thank you so much all for sharing. So for each of us, there's going to be things that are taking up our energy. Define those and limit those as much as possible for this next period, as much as you can. Small changes to various aspects of your life. Ketabatle, you spoke about TV, but could you do less TV? Could you do less TikTok where you're learning about perishing? So all of those things are relevant to this period. And are you using your time to prepare rather than wasting? I'm going to pause here before I move on to our final topic. All right. For this last part, I'm going to use some of what we've actually shared earlier to try and see how we can reframe certain things. So I'm going to recollect the various things that we spoke about, and we're calling this the reframing circle. Earlier I spoke about self-limiting beliefs, and I'm going to challenge all of you for us to come back and try and see how we can shape this. So the question that would start out this segment is, what is something that you're anxious about? What's an anxious thought that you have? And there's all sorts of examples. So the anxious thoughts was, I don't want to become complacent. The anxious thought was, I feel useless. The anxious thought was, this would turn out exactly how it did last year. Chabelo, even though you didn't phrase it that way, potentially you have an anxious thought about, what if they ask me something that I'm not proficient in? And that might be an anxious thought. Okay, so I want us to think, so this is a group exercise. So for any anxious thought, I want us to reframe it and put in a positive strategy. So I'm going to type various comments here, or anxious thoughts, on top of the ones that I've already given as an example. So reframe it and give what's the positive strategy. Okay, so let's start here. So I'll give it a moment. I want you guys to think, because you're gonna have to go home and reframe your thoughts for the next couple of months. Ketabatle says, I have to make the most of the time that I have left. Yes, that is very positive. Give another example, and I think this is what I touched on earlier, is if you were writing and they asked us something about sustainability, is that where you'll spend an hour if this is not your area of expertise or preparation? I'll manage my time by tackling easy marks first. So the things that we spoke about, my strengths, if they asked me about groups, anytime in my sleep, babes were groups. That's me. So also think about that. But that's not to say spend 5 hours on groups. So again, because you could have missed something, to attempt more things and give yourself a better chance at success. So that was a good example. Thank you so much, Ketabatle. Ketabatle, Do you have the mic with you?
Yes, I do.
All right. So please state for us the one anxious thought you've carried about the exam.
Mm, I think the biggest one is what if I'm not competent? So it sort of covers everything like, oh, what if I don't know? What if I don't write enough? And so I think I'm just um summing it up to what if I don't pass? What if I'm not competent? Yes, that's my biggest anxious thought.
Okay, perfect. If a friend had this worry, what advice would you give to them?
Uh, I'd probably say do your best and have faith. Yeah,
Why
I
are you
think
laughing? Why are
because
you laughing?
because that's the advice I receive is the advice I would give. It doesn't change the thought. Yeah, the thought is still there. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna give it my best. I'm gonna have faith. And in the background, it's just eating you.
The reason why I'm smiling is because how we speak to ourselves is actually not how we speak to others. Do you think someone would be friends with you if you told them they were useless?
Not at all.
So if that's not something you would say to someone, why would you say it to yourself? So, and that's why I angled the question that way, because think of how you'd give advice, and we wouldn't talk to ourselves the way, that we do. Last question. What's the best evidence that you are capable of passing? Etabahle?
I'm still here. I suppose having made it this far, um, being able to do the job is just a matter of the qualification.
Mm.
Being a go-to person where people have questions and you're the one who's able to answer them. Yeah.
Thank you. That was a very good answer. Earlier, I spoke about the only way to manage self-limiting beliefs is facts, because that belief is sometimes a thought and emotion, and you need to remind yourself how you know you are capable. So those things are all evidence I'm able to do my job. Or even if I have challenges on my job, maybe it's other things that are challenging. It's not the technical stuff. I understand that there's no issues with my technical ability when I'm working. I've passed CTA. They don't give out these qualifications, guys. So all of that is fact based. You have the ability to do it, and you've written the same exams that everyone has to get that CTA. So without a doubt, that is fact-based evidence. I love your example about people come to me and ask me these questions. And that is an excellent example of the fact that you are able and others can see that. And sometimes you don't, but perfect. So Chifiwa says, reflecting, understanding where you went wrong, having made it this far. Thank you so, so much. I'm going to ask a final question. So I'm going to ask Chabelo Otsungi. Funny enough, your names are first on my list. I don't know why. I'm going to ask one question and you can attempt this how you see fit, gentlemen. What is one phrase or affirmation I can hold on to for exam day? Please not both at once.
I think Tumi can go first.
I would just say believe.
One word, short and sharp. Belief. Chifiwa says you've got this. Chavelo, do you want to come back in?
I probably would say, one task at a time,
One task at a time. Okay. Chavelo, that is brilliant. One task at a time, line by line, you're capable that you can do this one task at a time. Thank you. Okay, so that was our reframing circle. And what were we doing there? We were taking any anxious thought and we were trying to see how we can reframe it. Please remember what I just said now about how would you advise someone, because we speak to others in a better manner than we do to ourselves. And what's the one phrase or takeaway that we're going to hold on to for that exam day? So Chavelo, you left us with an important point, one thing at a time. And I believe that's not just for the exam day. From today, leading up to this, as we said, is volume can be overwhelming. And how much are you going to do? One thing at a time, to breathe and take it all in. All right. So just a quick recap in terms of what we've spoken about. So as I mentioned, is I will send you a little one pager for you to document according to these 5 things that we spoke about, because I want you to have somewhere to go that you can remember, and you can look at it, Keta, you can look at it when you're watching TV and focusing at night. But, what is your reflection process? What is your focus strategy? How are you going to manage your stress and build resilience? And how are you managing your energy and your wellness? And lastly, how are you reframing anxious thoughts? So that is what we spoke about. Those are the 5 areas we spoke about today. So Given is asking, where are you sending it, here or emails? So I'm going to send it to Zelia, your appointed caretaker, and she will make sure that she gets it to all of you. Okay, so I have successfully paused with about 5 or 6 minutes to spare. So I will allow you to ask any question that you'd like to ask before we close the session. Thank you so much so far for your engagement. As I said, peer-to-peer learning is a very well-recognized manner in which we all learn. You're not only learning from your academic team and all of that. All of this is contributing to your potential success on the 3rd of December. Your success on the 3rd of December. Your success on the 3rd of December. Any questions? Or any reflections, something that you're thinking about right now? We started out the session actually with how are you feeling? Let's end it off there if there are no questions. So how are you feeling? Okay, Katabatle says the weight has gone down. Why is that, Katabatle? Anesu feels relaxed. A bit.
Because I think the 5 steps we use now we just discussed now, could be a coping mechanism for the stress of it all. So I think if we try to follow the tips, it might help us and be able to prepare better for the upcoming assessment, and therefore hope for better outcomes.
Okay. Thank you, Ketabahle. I want to alert you that you used a lot of maybes and might. So I can tell that you're still cautious. You're cautiously optimistic. But I want you guys to try, as you're saying, and even any other strategy and whatever it is in this period that you think is going to give you, the tools for that success. So thank you so much. Zelia, are you still on the line? Did we lose Zelia? Okay. All right. Team, thank you so much for your input this evening, and I wish you continued success and all the best for this sprint 78 days or 2 months to this next goal and target in your lives, both professional and otherwise. I wish you all the best, and I thank you for everything this evening. It has been an absolute pleasure as always. Thank you so much, team. Have a lovely evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Manoka.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Manoka.
Thank you, team.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
Thank you.